and welcome to episode number 4 of Empire State Hoops. This is once again Adam Rothschild, joined alongside Matthew Vargo, and we have to recap our previous 2 preseason games where we saw some good things out of the Knicks, but not a win out of these New York Knicks, as they had games against the Minnesota Timberwolves and once again the Boston Celtics. So Matt, we saw these games, we expected good things, we got some good things, but we didn't get wins.
Nope. Well, overall, we'll obviously start with the Timberwolves game because that one came first. Overall, the defense was pretty solid for the Knicks in this game. None of the Wolves' starting 5 particularly shot well in this game. I mean, the best one was Karl Anthony Towns. He shot 6 of 14, had 17 points, but he had a -5 in terms of plus-minus. I know plus-minus isn't the end-all, be-all, but still, they outscored him when he was on the court. The only one who was really cooking for the Timberwolves was Naz Reid, and 8 of 12 shooting. It was 1 of 2 from the free throw line. Hit 5 of his 8 threes, had 22 points. He led all scorers. The Knicks, again, much like the Timberwolves, again, none of them particularly shot well. Aside from Mitchell Robinson, only had 4 shots, but he made all of them, had a block, had 4 assists and a steal, so that's a positive thing to see overall. Randall, again, didn't shoot it very well. Brunson didn't shoot it very well. RJ was the leading scorer, but again, didn't shoot the ball well, 6 of 15. So you like the defensive effort. They were able to drag the T-Wolves down with them. They just couldn't get the win.
Yeah, the Knicks had a game similar to this one against Minnesota last year late in the season where Randall dropped at 57 points. And obviously, it's a similar outcome, except it wasn't like, a crazy ending like that was. This was kind of like just, It's preseason. They let Minnesota get away with a lot of things. And you were mentioning about the defense. The defense obviously did step up a little bit, but not as much as we expected. And RJ Barrett, like you just mentioned before, he was the leading scorer, obviously. Now, is this a good thing to look at? Because he's going into year 5. And if he wants to be an all-star this year, he's got to have performances like this day in and day out.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have to take a leap if they want to be a top 4 seed in the East this year. It's certainly plausible. Be very difficult, though. But RJ, in 26 minutes, he took too many threes for my liking. He's not a great three-point shooter. He's not poor at it, but 2 of 8, it's not going to get the job done. He did hit 9 of his 12 free throw attempts, so that's nice. Also had 3 turnovers, which is not great, but he did have 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. He's always had potential as a defensive stopper, so that was another positive sign overall. So just clean up the shooting a little bit, and he should be fine from there, yeah.
Yeah, we obviously noticed this right when he got drafted, obviously, back in 2019, because he was in a loaded draft class with a bunch of guys like Zion Williamson, John Morant, and obviously, those 2 guys have had struggles, injuries, and violence with John Morant, obviously, which I kind of don't really want to get into here. But
yeah.
But looking out of this, you can really say right now that as of now, RJ Barrett is probably the best out of the top 5 in this draft. You can probably say that, but obviously Zion is back from his injury, so you never know what opinions can change. But I think as of now, RJ Barrett is showing why he is possibly one of the best players out of this draft.
I'm trying to think of 5 players from that draft that are definitively better than RJ. Like Zion, we know how great Zion can be. He's never healthy, though. It's obviously a huge concern. He was even in trade rumors earlier this offseason. John Morant, again, very performance and injuries. I mean, he has some injuries, not as a concern as Zion, but again, major questions about his off-field, or I guess off-court character. I think he'll be able to turn it around this year. I think he finally woke up, was visited by 3 spirits, and will be much better. Other than that, I mean, Darius Garland's pretty good. Wasn't he an all-star last year? I think he was.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
You could say Garland, and after that, I'm sure that there's maybe somebody that, I'm completely forgetting on. But RJ, yeah, definitely. He's never going to be a superstar, but I still think he can, I think I might have said this in an earlier episode, he can definitely be a 2nd or 3rd option on a team that can win a title.
Yeah, he's one of those, obviously, of course, with the Knicks, he's a starter, but on another team, you could see him as, a key role player if the Knicks ever use him to trade in the upcoming future for, a future star, which is obviously their main goal. But, obviously, RJ is the starter for now at that forward spot.
I'm looking at the rest of the draft. I just wanted to fact check, make sure I got everyone. So obviously we have Zion and Ja and Darius Garland. After that, I mean, there was Jared Culver, bust. Kobe White, I mean, he's okay. Jackson Hayes, Rui Hachimura, again, just a decent role player. Tyler Hero's good, though, although he's a sixth man. He's a good sixth man, but a sixth man nonetheless. And then I keep scrolling down. I mean, Jordan Poole, I mean, for a late first-round pick, I wouldn't quite say he's better than R.J. Barrett. I mean, if anything, we're probably going to see him face off tonight, assuming that everybody plays in tonight's preseason game against the Wizards. And also in that draft, Kevin Porter Jr., yeah, moving on from there. And so just wanted to fact check that real quick. Overall, I'd say RJ, probably the fourth best player from his class.
Yeah, I think that's very understandable. I think with all the other players in this draft, like there's obviously all-stars in this draft, and RJ hopefully is one of them very soon, obviously. And now we get to the game they had last night against Boston once again. They won the first game against Boston in the preseason. Not so much this time. This is because Boston played all their starters. The Knicks did not play a single one of them besides Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah, the Celtics, obviously, when a team is not playing their stars and you're playing yours, you just got to go out there and do it, and credit to the Celtics. They did. Tatum was great, 9 of 15, 5 of 8 from 3, 28 points overall. Jaylen Brown didn't shoot the ball particularly well, but still had 17. Porzingis was good. Just kind of letting the role players and some of the younger guys getting their feet wet, and some of the key bench guys like we've mentioned earlier, DiVincenzo, Jericho Sims, and McBride, they showed flashes, and that's obviously promising given they're playing against the first team of the Celtics. So overall, the outcome, don't really be disappointed in that given the circumstances, and just we're a week away. We're a week away from playing these guys full strength for both sides, and it should be a good one.
Yeah, it's exactly 1 week from today. We got that opening night game, of course. We'll obviously have a preview for that one next week. And there was some positives out of this performance, obviously, by the Knicks, even though it resulted in a loss, which is not really a concern since it's still the preseason. But Quentin Grimes was one of them. He dropped 22 points.
Yep.
And, of course, was our leading scorer.
Yeah, he played very well. Much like with, I mean, Mitchell Robinson, again, he's not getting a lot of shots, but he's actually been very efficient around the hoop. But Grimes definitely was the most efficient Knick out of any of them in the Celtics game last night, 7 of 13. All 7 of those shots were from 3. He shot 12 threes. He hit 7 of them, so that's obviously very impressive, especially against a perimeter defense with Tatum and Brown that we know is going to be very good. But of everyone else, I mean, Dante, 3 of 12, that's not great. McBride, 6 of 18, not awful by any stretch, but still room to go on. And Jericho Sims, he had, and I know we're going to get to him, he was gobbling everything on the glass. He was getting blocks, steals, overall. Great defensive outing, just didn't really do much on the offensive end, but he's not really going to be asked to be a volume scorer on this team, so I think it's serviceable.
Yeah, and it's pretty obvious that Jericho, like we were about to get into Jericho Sims, and he's obviously looking for that role in that rotation. And obviously they're going with a 9-man, but for Jericho to get minutes, he's going to have to find a way. And last night, he did find a way getting those 10 rebounds, which was huge for the Knicks, obviously, even though it still resulted in the loss, obviously. But it shows improvement right there that this guy is looking to get minutes behind Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein.
Oh, yeah. And especially considering that he was being matched up with Porzingis pretty much most of the time with the two big guys. And Porzingis, he's still really good on offense. Can put the ball on the floor a little bit. Still is a great shooter. Still was able to out-rebound him overall, 10 rebounds to 8, and out-blocked him 3-2. So obviously that is a huge encouraging sign for Tibbs, that he will most likely be running the second unit as the backup center.
Yeah, and obviously this is a lot of pressure for him, just trying to find that spot, find where he's at, coming into year 3 for him now, obviously out of that 2021 draft class with Quentin Grimes, and they weren't in the rotation that first year. They found their way in, and Sims, of course, we mentioned this in the last episode, he had time with injuries when Robinson went out, when Hartenstein was the starting center, and he was playing right behind him.
and he played well for the most part. Hartenstein came off the bench last night, and again, he was pretty solid overall. 6 of 11, had 13 points. Plus minus wasn't anything. Was not very good, though, minus 11. But again, don't take too much from that, given that it was the backups against the Celtics starters.
Yeah, now obviously we're just getting into that now with Dante DiVincenzo, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Deuce McBride all getting in double figures. That's another thing to point out of this game. The Knicks had a bunch of guys in double figures in this game that some we didn't even expect, like Deuce McBride, because McBride obviously was not in the rotation last season and is trying to find his way in. He's still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I believe he played the most minutes out of all of the Knicks last night.
Yeah, that's what I saw the mostly.
Yeah, and he took the most shots. Obviously, you're a young guy. You're wanting to show yourself in front of the Boston crowd, show Tibbs that you're worthy. Although the efficiency is still something that was questionable. He only hit 6 of his 18 shots, including 2 of 8 from 3. That's not great. Did have 6 assists and 4 steals, though, so overall was able to make an impact even though his shot wasn't falling. Because the thing is with Tibbs has never really had a beautiful offensive team. The only time I can ever think of that was when he had MVP D-Rose in 2011, and even then it was mainly just D-Rose or bust on offense. What Tibbs really wants is that you give 110% and play defense, and getting 4 steals on the perimeter, that's very, very encouraging.
Yeah, and obviously you just mentioned Tom Thibodeau with Derrick Rose, obviously back in 2011. And here with the Knicks, he's been probably waiting for a point guard to just come into the picture. Mm-hmm. And obviously when he first coached there, his starting point guard was Elfrid Payton.
Oh my God! Is Elfrid Payton even in the league anymore?
I actually don't know. The Knicks let him go to Phoenix, I think, but I don't even know where he is right now. But getting back to my point here, they had Payton, then they get Derrick Rose at the deadline, and that's the good move. They tried Kemba Walker, did not work. They signed Jalen Brunson in the offseason last year, and that was the way to go. So it kind of harkens back to the time of when Derrick Rose was in his MVP years, and now Tom Thibodeau is coaching Jalen Brunson.
Well, the thing is that stylistically, Jalen Brunson and Derrick Rose, I mean, they're similar in stature, but Jalen Brunson is much more methodical, whereas D. Rose was more of just a hyper-athletic / cut to the basket and make and fight through defenders to get tough layups and dunks. Jalen Brunson, very great at seeing the floor, great shooter, very smart guy coming from the Villanova tree. That's the thing with a lot of these Villanova guys. They're always typically late picks in the draft, but being in college for 3 years and playing in March Madness, being in front of the world stage, they're very smart players, and that was key as to why I thought Brunson would outplay Mitchell in the playoff series, and that's what happened. So overall, again, very similar looking players, but very opposite. And I feel like Tibbs, and keep knocking on wood for no injuries, because that was D Rose's downfall. But I don't think Brunson would have to worry about that.
Yeah, I think with the way his athleticism is, just going after it, and just he knows that he cares about this game. He knows how much he means to this team, and of course New York itself. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge plus for him. But back to the Boston game, we mentioned a lot of these guys in double figures, DiVincenzo, Hartenstein, and McBride. Hartenstein, I think, is going to play a lot better this year, I think, because we saw the other night, his 3-point shooting is something that I did notice, actually. But he did take a couple, I think. I didn't get a chance to watch the whole game, but I did notice that there were some times where he gets shots outside the 3-point line, and I think that might be something to look at, but obviously I'm just thinking of something here to think about with Isaiah Hartenstein because he's the backup center, obviously, for us.
I mean, we'll see. He did shoot 3 threes, but you got to remember, it's a preseason game. Stakes are very low. It doesn't matter. I mean, we saw Ben Simmons drain threes in pregame and preseason and never did it in a game. So I wouldn't get get super amped over that. Obviously, if he shoots 1 or 2 per game off the night, per game off the bench, that's fine, but that's never going to be his strong suit. I feel like Isaiah Hartenstein just is who he is, a solid role player who can grab rebounds and score a little bit for a borderline playoff team. I feel like that's who he is.
Yeah, he's just one of those backup centers that can just give you solid minutes. He's good in the post. He's just great at scoring. He's a great passer also. That's a good thing, having a big man that can just shove the ball down the court, and that's something you need also. And then now we'll get to Dante DiVincenzo before we preview tonight's game. So Dante DiVincenzo, obviously, he got in double figures. And I think Tom Thibodeau, he's been all over this guy. Since he got here. Of course, he's a part of that Villanova trio that we have now. And I think he's producing good minutes. And there's a lot of expectations I think he's putting on himself, because he knows that New York is somewhere that he wanted to be.
Really should have muted that real quick. Just got an email, but we'll ignore that for the time being. DiVincenzo's always been really good. I know he was the starting point guard on that Bucks team that won the title, although he got injured for the playoff run, which is very unfortunate to see. With the Warriors, solid backup. I believe he was the backup point guard to Steph. They mainly had Jordan Poole at shooting guard because Jordan Poole's much more of a shooter than a facilitator. And, he was solid, averaged around 10 points per game. I'm sure the Warriors wanted to bring him back, but, with bringing on CP3, re-signing Draymond, they just couldn't afford to bring him back. So for the Knicks, I think it's a good pickup. He'll back up Brunson and, being very familiar with each other from their Nova days. I believe he should be able to just step right in and be a good fit. Now, like I said, you do want to clean up his efficiency, 3 for 12 and 3 of 10 from 3. That's not great. He hit all of his free throws, though, and also had 6 turnovers. So just kind of chalking it up as to like a reserve playing against what you could argue is the best starting 5 in the NBA last night.
Yeah, and I think obviously it was tough for them because, we know how good Boston is, and obviously they've got to dial in better. And I think tonight against Washington, as we're about to preview now, is going to be a huge test for them because the Wizards, obviously, we'll get into them here right now. They're a rebuilding team because they got rid of Bradley Beal finally. Finally got rid of Bradley Beal.
About 3 years too late, they finally got rid of him.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit too late for the move, but obviously he is now in the Western Conference with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker on the Phoenix Suns. But we'll get to that once the Knicks play Phoenix later in the year. But for now, it's this game against Washington, this new-look Wizards team with Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma and Daniel Gafford.
What a great way to, hey, everybody, come to our games. We got a big 3 of Daniel Gafford, Kyle Kuzma, and Jordan Poole. No offense to any of those players. They're all good players in their own right, but obviously, and I couldn't find any reports of Knicks starters or Wizards starters sitting out for this game. So if you're the Knicks and assuming that starters will be playing on both sides, you got to go out there, assert dominance, and just get a big lead. Now, if the subs blow it later on, okay, who cares? But the Knicks, as we know, they're just better than the Wizards, as you allude to. The Wizards, they're going to be awful this year. I don't know what the odds are for win-loss record across the NBA, but I'm pretty sure the Wizards have the lowest in the entire league. They're not going to be great, or even good for that matter. So for the Knicks, it's a great way to finally clean some things up, get ready for Boston, and just move forward.
Yeah, I think especially with a week off, they're probably going to want to get the starters some reps in. So I would expect Jalen Brunson to probably try to have a big game tonight. Just go all out and just destroy them. That's all you need to do. I know that's some harsh words there towards, but nothing but respect to the Wizards. The Wizards are a great franchise, obviously, even though they're not going to make the playoffs this year. But
are they really a great franchise, though? They haven't made the conference finals since, the 1970s.
And second round since 2017, I believe, was the last time they were second round.
They played the IT Celtics, and IT, as we know, he was on a mission that series.
And then they just, they got hurt and then lost to Cleveland. But
yeah, I mean, the Wizards, it was just time for them to blow it up and rebuild. They were late to it, but finally acknowledged they're moving on. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league, get a top draft pick, and hopefully try to rebuild. But for the Knicks, like I said, just go out there, handle your business, clean some things up, and get ready for the Celtics because I don't see any reason why the starters wouldn't play because assuming that they don't play would be what, like over 10 days since they last played, and now it's like opening night at home in the Garden, and you have to go take on probably the best team in the Eastern Conference. We'll see, but I don't see any reason why they wouldn't play.
Yeah, well, is there a specific player in mind that you think should have a good night that should probably try to get some reps in? Because when you look back at like the Boston game, if you look back at the Minnesota games last time the starters played, so you're looking at a guy like Julius Randle, who we mentioned earlier in the episode that he did not have a good game against Minnesota. Is he a guy that we think should possibly get some good minutes and just score some buckets and just do what's good for the team?
Definitely, because Randall he's a rhythm player. He's a good player, but he's a rhythm player. When his shot is falling early, he can play very loose. He's confident. He can drive to the rim. For whatever reason, he'll just get ungodly hot from three, like we saw against Miami that one night where he hit the buzzer beater. But also, I want to see what Jalen Brunson will look like, assuming he plays tonight, because it's not like there's going to be much defense to worry about on the perimeter with the Wizards. Like, Jordan Poole will probably be the primary defender, and Jordan Poole can't guard a nosebleed for the most part, so that's another good way for him to try to get some confidence back. I know against Minnesota he played the lowest amount of minutes among the starters, probably because Tibbs doesn't want to risk him getting hurt because he is the franchise. If he goes down, then, like, no disrespect to everyone else, but they would be screwed for a while. So just want him to go out there, again, get some easy shots, and have something positive to look forward to going into Boston, because Boston will have a much tougher perimeter defense.
Yeah, Jalen Brunson only missed 8 games last season for the Knicks. But getting back to the Wizards here before we end it off, I think there's something to say good about this team. They have a lot of young players that are going to be really, really good in the future. They have a lot of good players. One of them in particular, I believe, Corey Kispert, I believe.
Yeah, Gonzaga man, Corey Kispert. Now, I'm trying to pull up the roster real quick. I know that didn't they also just sign Kuzma to like a 5-year, $150 million deal or something? Yeah,
he just got like a big extension, I believe, because he's kind of like, it's him and Jordan Poole now. They're just the two major cornerstones they got right now.
Okay, so Denny Avdia, another young guy who will most likely now get more minutes because, I mean, you're not trying to win games at this point. Jordan Poole, that guy could probably average like 29 points a game this year. They'll only win maybe 18 games or something, but he could maybe show that he can be one of the starting point guard to build around for this team. You obviously mentioned Corey Kispert, and this is not a young guy, but just a player I wanted to bring up. Taj Gibson.
I knew you were going to say this. I knew it.
Taj Mahal Gibson, 38 years old. He's going for one last spin with the Wizards, maybe be a veteran leader for this team. I love Taj Gibson. He's just... I remember, it seems like everywhere Tibbs is gone, Taj Gibson is just always there. He was with the Bulls. He was with the Timberwolves when he assembled that team. And he was obviously with the Knicks. Sorry.
Just a match made in heaven, isn't it?
Match made in heaven. Tom Thibodeau and Taj Gibson.
Yeah, it's just a great way to just end this one in a laugh with good old 38-year-old Taj Gibson.
Oh my! Bring back Taj Gibson to the Knicks, Tibbs.
That would be wonderful. I wish they kept him, but sadly they did not and let him walk. But anyways, that'll be it here on episode number 4. We'll be back next week with episode 5 and our preview for opening night. And once again, the Knicks play the Washington Wizards in their final preseason matchup tonight. You can tune into that on MSG Networks at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This is Adam Rothschild and Matthew Vargo. We will see you next week for episode number 5 and our opening night recap.